follow-up from Gaza?
Olivia's had her hand up. Go ahead.
Thank you.
On the same region, I'm assuming. Yeah.
Yes. Secretary Blinken from Cairo said this morning that one of the main takeaways from this trip was Israel agreeing to the UN assessment of Northern Gaza to establish the conditions for when Palestinian citizens could return there. When is that assessment supposed to begin? How long is it expected to run? And what assurances has the U.S. received that Israel will agree to abide by any recommendations that the UN makes there?
So our hope is that this is able to get launched as soon as possible. That is our strong desire. Discussions are currently ongoing between the UN and the government of Israel to begin this. Logistical issues exist that need to be worked out, but our hope and our expectation is that this will get up and running as soon as possible.
There's been some reporting that Israeli officials won't permit Palestinians to return north unless and until more hostages are released. Has that been formally communicated to the U.S. as Israel's policy, and how does the U.S. view that kind of condition if it exists?
So I'm not going to speak to the specifics of internal diplomatic deliberations, but Palestinian civilians must be able to return to their homes when they choose to return. Full stop. And we've been clear that all hostages must be released immediately, and that the issue of their release should not be linked to any other issues. We've been quite clear about that.
Okay, staying on the region and the UN, there's now a warning that the people of Gaza could be experiencing famine by as soon as early February. Were there any concrete commitments secured by the Secretary during this trip to significantly boost the amount of humanitarian aid, the consistency with which it gets in, the volume with which it gets in, the deconfliction zones that seems to be a persistent sticking point in aid's delivery? Any breakthroughs on that front?
These are things that we are continuing to work directly with our Israeli partners, as well as the government of Egypt and other regional partners that have a convergence with us on the need to ensure that humanitarian aid can flow into Gaza more frequently, more expeditiously. And those are efforts that we are continuing to work around the clock. When it comes to the flow of humanitarian aid, since October 21st, more than 7,000 trucks of humanitarian aid have been able to enter Gaza. We recognize that that number is still not enough, and we're working around the clock to do everything that we can to ensure that that is increased. Over the course of his travels, the Secretary had the opportunity to speak with the UN's newly appointed senior humanitarian reconstruction coordinator for Gaza, Sigrid Kaag, and he discussed a number of these issues with her, and the United States is going to continue working on these issues in close coordination with the United Nations and others as well.
I mean, the 7,000 number notwithstanding, I mean, health officials are saying that it's an average of 127 trucks getting in, down from an average of 500 that were going in daily before this conflict erupted. So this is a 3-month-long effort that seems not to be bearing much fruit.
I certainly don't stand up here trying to make the case that those numbers are enough. We know the people of Gaza need more humanitarian aid. More humanitarian aid needs to be flowing into Gaza. More commercial goods need to be flowing into Gaza. Secretary Blinken raised all of these things in his engagements in the region, and I will just add that this dire situation again shows the indispensability of American leadership and American diplomacy. It was our engagement with regional interlocutors that allowed the flow of humanitarian aid into Gaza in the first place. And so we recognize the seriousness of this situation, and we'll continue to work every lever we can to ensure that more aid can get to the places it needs to go.